If you've ever doubted that karma is real, stay with this story till the final line, because what happened in this small-town American restaurant will leave you speechless, furious, and satisfied all at the same time. And before we begin, make sure you smash that subscribe button so you never miss stories that expose the ugliest sides of people and the unbelievable twists that follow. It all began on a warm Saturday afternoon in a quiet town outside Atlanta, where a woman named Ariel Johnson walked into Harper's Homestyle Grill, a place known for big portions, outdated wallpaper, and, though people rarely said it out loud, an owner with a reputation for preferring a particular kind of customer. Ariel, a 32-year-old pediatric nurse with a calm voice and a smile that made even crying toddlers relax, had just finished a long double shift and wanted nothing more than a warm meal and a moment of peace before heading home. But from the second she stepped through the front door, she could feel something was off, like the room shifted, like the conversations dimmed just slightly as people turned to look at her. The restaurant wasn't busy. 3 families, an elderly couple, 2 teenagers at the counter, yet the air felt thick, as though her presence alone had disrupted something. Behind the register stood Frank Harper, the owner, a broad-shouldered man in his late 50s with thinning blonde hair, a too-tight flannel shirt, and a stare that flicked over people like he was scanning for flaws. He didn't greet her, didn't smile, just looked at her like she was an inconvenience. "Table for one," Ariel said politely. Frank crossed his arms. "We're full." She blinked. "Full? But I see empty tables." Frank didn't bother lowering his voice. "We're expecting a rush. Reservations only today." A couple sitting nearby frowned. The teenage waitress, Lily, shifted uncomfortably, looking down at her sneakers. "I can wait," Ariel offered. "I'm not in a hurry." "Don't think you heard me," Frank snapped. "We don't have space for you." Ariel felt her chest tighten. She had lived enough life to know exactly what this was. "Is there a reason?" she asked quietly. Frank leaned forward, his lip curling. "Look, lady, we reserve the right to refuse service, and today I'm refusing." A hush fell over the room. The elderly couple exchanged looks. One of the teenagers at the counter whispered, "Dude, that's messed up." But Frank ignored them. He stared Ariel down like he wanted her to feel small, and for a moment she almost walked out. Almost. But then Lily, trembling, stepped forward and said softly, "Sir, we're not full. We only have 2 reservations tonight." Frank instantly snapped, "Get back to work." Then, turning back to Ariel, he said loudly, "Some people just don't belong in certain places. You should try one of those fast food joints down the road." "Pretty sure that's more your style." Someone gasped. A mother at the far table whispered, "Oh my God." Ariel felt heat crawl up her neck. She had been insulted before, but never with so much venom, so publicly, so deliberately. Still, she held her ground with dignity. "I'll remember this," she said. Frank rolled his eyes dramatically. Yeah, go write a Yelp review. Doesn't matter, my customers are loyal, they know what real food is, they don't need, but, right." Then the bell above the door chimed and everything changed. 3 men entered, 2 in suits, 1 in a polo with a clipboard, and the moment Frank saw them, his entire demeanor flipped like a light switch. He straightened, pasted on a smile, and stepped toward them. "Evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Harper's Homestyle Grill." The man in front, tall, clean-cut, early 40s, spoke with authority. "We're here for the evaluation." Frank clapped his hands. "Yes, absolutely. Please, come in. You'll find everything's in order. Health code spotless, service excellent." Then his eyes flicked to Ariel and his smile faltered. The lead inspector, Marcus Reed, followed his gaze. "Is there an issue?" Frank forced a laugh. No, just a situation that's been resolved." Ariel raised an eyebrow. "Actually, it hasn't." Marcus turned to her. "Ma'am, are you a customer?" Before Frank could cut in, Ariel said clearly, "I tried to be." Marcus glanced between them, frowning. "What happened?" Frank jumped in quickly. "Nothing. Harper, we're not just here for a routine inspection. We're here because someone filed a formal civil rights complaint against your establishment." Frank stiffened. "What? Who?" Marcus turned slowly toward Ariel. "Her." Frank stared at her like she'd just revealed herself as an enemy spy. You? You set me up?" Ariel shook her head. "No, I've never been here before today. But I did file a complaint this morning, after seeing multiple reports online about people of color being turned away or treated differently in your restaurant." The room buzzed. Frank sputtered, "Reports? Lies?" "All lies," Marcus continued. "We've been monitoring the situation for months. Today we scheduled a surprise follow-up visit. We didn't expect to walk in during a live incident." Frank's face drained of color. Incident? What incident? I didn't do anything. But Lily stepped closer, voice stronger now. You did. And you've been doing it for years. I'm tired of staying quiet. Another twist hit. The cook, a big man with tattoos, walked out of the kitchen. Me too. I heard everything. And I've been hearing it since the day I started. The mother at the far table raised her hand. I was recording when he told her she didn't belong. Frank lunged toward her. Give me that phone. Marcus stepped between them. Sir, you need to back away. Frank froze, chest heaving, panic flooding his eyes. You can't do this. You can't take my restaurant. It's my family's legacy. Your legacy, Marcus said, is discrimination, and the investigation starts now. Customers began gathering their things, some comforting Lily, others apologizing to Ariel, who stood in quiet strength, watching karma take its rightful course. But the story wasn't done yet, not even close. Because as Marcus continued questioning witnesses, another man walked in, tall, confident, wearing a navy blue jacket embroidered with the state seal. Frank groaned, "Oh, come on." The man introduced himself. Deputy Regional Director for Civil Rights Enforcement. He turned to Ariel. Miss Johnson, thank you for standing up today. Frank snapped. Why is everyone acting like she's special? She's just some woman causing trouble, Marcus corrected him. She's not just some woman. She's the one who helped us gather enough information to finally open a full discrimination case. And you made it incredibly easy today. But then came the final twist, the one that shattered Frank entirely. Marcus added casually, also, she wasn't just coming here for a meal. She was meeting us here later today for the follow-up interview. Frank blinked dumbly. Interview? Yes, Marcus said. Ms. Johnson is a consultant for medical community civil rights cases. Her testimony carries weight at the federal level. Frank collapsed into a chair, head in his hands. The cook whispered to a customer, Man, that's karma speedrunning. The inspectors documented everything. Customers submitted statements. The recording was saved. And within hours, Harper's Homestyle Grill was temporarily shut down pending a full federal investigation. As Frank was escorted outside, ranting about conspiracies and outsiders ruining everything, Ariel stepped into the sunlight with calm dignity. Lily ran after her. Thank you, she said, tears in her eyes. I've been trying to quit, but I needed the job. I didn't know how to stop him. Ariel rested a hand on her shoulder. Sometimes all it takes is one person speaking up for others to find their voice. Marcus approached. We'll be following up soon. You did good today. Ariel simply nodded, walking toward her car, knowing she had not only stood up for herself, she had cracked open a door for everyone who came after. 3 minutes earlier, Frank had felt invincible. Then karma arrived, not quietly, not gently, but exactly the way he earned it. And as Ariel drove away, sunlight streaking the windshield, she knew this was only the beginning of a bigger movement, the kind that starts with one humiliated woman who refused to shrink and ends with a community refusing to be silent ever again. And if you're still here, make sure you subscribe. Because stories like this need to be heard, shared, and remembered, especially by the people who think they can get away with anything. The lunch crowd had started to thin when a quiet tension settled over Harper's Homestyle Grill, the kind of small-town restaurant where the walls were lined with faded photos of fishing trips, little league teams, and decades-old newspaper clippings that no one under 50 ever bothered reading. The scent of fried chicken, cornbread, and too strong coffee hung in the air, mixing with the sound of silverware clinking on plates and a country song humming from the dusty speaker overhead. Into this warm, familiar, slightly outdated space walked Ariel Johnson, a 32-year-old pediatric nurse coming off a brutal double shift, hoping for nothing more than a hot meal and 10 minutes of peace before heading home to collapse. But peace was the last thing Harper's would offer her. From the second she stepped through the door, the chit-chat softened, eyes lifted, and a strange quiet rippled through the room as if her presence disrupted something sacred. Ariel wasn't new to feeling watched, but today the heaviness in the air felt different, sharp, intentional. She approached the hostess stand where Frank Harper, the owner himself, stood behind the register with arms folded and an expression that somehow managed to be uninterested and irritated at the same time. He was a thick-set man in his late 50s with thinning hair and an attitude that practically screamed he owned not just the restaurant but the town itself. Ariel smiled politely. Table for one, please. Frank didn't smile back. He didn't even pretend to try. He gave her a long, slow look and then said, We're full. Ariel blinked. Full? But there are empty tables. Frank didn't bother lowering his voice. We're expecting a rush. Reservations only today. The teenage waitress, Lily, paused mid-step, confusion all over her face. A couple near the window exchanged uncomfortable glances. Ariel kept her voice steady. "I can wait if needed," Frank scoffed. "Don't think you heard me. We don't have space for you." The words hit harder than the tone. A few customers stiffened. Someone muttered under their breath. Ariel felt her heart thump, but she stayed calm. "Is there a reason?" she asked, not naive, but giving him the opportunity to correct himself. Frank leaned forward, his lip curling. "Look, we reserve the right to refuse service, and today, I'm refusing." Lily looked horrified, staring down at her apron. Ariel's stomach twisted. She knew exactly what this was. "I'll remember this," she said softly. Frank shook his head dramatically. Yeah, whatever. Try one of those fast food places down the road. Pretty sure that's more your kind of spot." A gasp echoed through the restaurant. A teenager at the counter muttered, "Man, that's messed up." Before Ariel could respond, the door chimed and everything shifted. 3 men entered, 2 in suits, one holding a clipboard with a state seal. Frank's entire posture transformed immediately. Shoulders back, fake smile plastered on, suddenly the friendliest man in America. "Evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Harper's Homestyle Grill." The lead inspector, a tall, well-groomed man in his early 40s, spoke with calm authority. "We're here for the evaluation." Frank clapped his hands together. "Of course, everything's been spotless, service excellent, food perfect." His smile cracked when he noticed the inspector glancing at Ariel. The man asked politely, "Is there a problem here?" Before Frank could manufacture a lie, Ariel answered, "I tried to get a table." Frank interrupted quickly. "She came in without a reservation." Lily blurted, "We don't take reservations." The entire room froze. Frank whipped around, eyes blazing. "I told you." The inspector held up a hand. "Sir, I'd like to hear from her." Lily swallowed hard but continued. "He didn't want to seat her. He said we were full, but we weren't." Customers began whispering. One of the teenagers nodded. "He said she didn't belong." Frank barked, "That is not what I said." The inspector's expression darkened. "Is that true?" Frank stuttered. "Absolutely not. These kids are soft, sensitive, trying to twist everything. I treat everyone the same." The elderly couple in the corner stood. "No," the husband said firmly, "you do not." Ariel watched the inspector take slow, precise notes. Her pulse steadied. Something was shifting. Something Frank couldn't stop. And this was only the beginning. The room stood frozen for a long moment after the elderly man spoke, the kind of silence that felt like the entire building was holding its breath, and Frank, for the first time in years, looked genuinely rattled as he searched the faces around him and realized that the control he thought he wielded so effortlessly was slipping through his fingers. The inspector, whose name Ariel would later learn was Marcus Reed, closed his notebook calmly and took a slow step forward, examining Frank with the kind of quiet intensity reserved for people who thought they were invincible until the right moment exposed them. "Sir," Marcus said evenly, "before we proceed, I need you to understand that this is a federal civil rights inspection. Your cooperation is expected." Frank attempted a shaky laugh. "Cooperation? I've always cooperated. I'm a model citizen. This is blown out of proportion." But it was too late. The mask he had relied on for years was cracking. The second man in a suit stepped forward and addressed the entire restaurant. "If anyone witnessed what happened, please remain available for a formal statement. Your testimony may be required." Customers exchanged looks. Some nodded. Others took out their phones. And Frank, sweating now, slammed his hand against the counter. "You can't just walk in here and disrupt my business." The authority in his voice cut through the growing chaos like a blade, and Frank stopped mid-step, chest heaving, face blotchy with anger and fear. "This is harassment," Frank spat. "You're ruining a good man's business over a misunderstanding." Marcus shook his head. "What we witnessed was not a misunderstanding." He turned to Ariel, his voice softening. "Ma'am, can you confirm exactly what was said?" Before Ariel could answer, the third man, the one with the clipboard, approached with a firm expression. "We're ready to issue the interim violation notice." Frank's eyes widened. "What? Already? You haven't even—" "We saw enough," the man replied. "And we have multiple witnesses." The restaurant buzzed with nervous energy as customers watched justice in real time. Ariel stepped forward gently and said, "I just came here to eat." Marcus nodded. "And instead you were refused service without cause." Frank threw his hands up. "Without cause?" He cut himself off, but the damage was done. Everyone knew exactly what he meant, even if he didn't say it aloud. Marcus turned to his colleague. "Document that." A fresh wave of panic washed over Frank. Hold on, you don't understand who I am in this town." "That," Marcus said calmly, "is not relevant. You can't shut me down. I've got connections. My family built this community." And the law, Marcus replied, applies to everyone. For the first time since she walked in, Ariel felt a strange sense of justice edging into the room. Not loud or dramatic, but steady, firm, and inevitable, like a tide rising against a stubborn rock. Customers began lining up to offer statements. Lily stepped forward first, then the cook, then the couple. Even the teenagers at the counter walked over, one of them shaking but determined. Frank watched, helpless, as one by one, the people he had always assumed would tolerate him finally stood on the other side. And standing slightly behind them all was Ariel, still calm, still composed, watching a man who once thought he could humiliate her without consequence begin to realize, painfully, that his world was shrinking fast. And it was only the beginning.